This is about the survival of the human race, a sign of the times, an analysis, and a commentary. Dow Jones closes above 14,000. Again, the Dow closed above 14,000 for the first time in more than 5 years on Friday. It was just a number on a board, but it was enough to raise the hopes of some investors and cause others concern about an overheated market. The United States in general seems to excel at building bubbles, and it brings reminders of a different era back before the financial crisis rocked the world economy. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, an index that is traditionally considered a benchmark for how the entire market is faring, had been rising fairly steadily for about a month. On Friday, strong auto sales and optimism about U.S. job growth pushed it over the mark. The Dow is now just 155 points away from its record close. There's a newfound enthusiasm for the equity market, said Jim Russell, Regional Investment Director at U.S. Bank Wealth Management in Minneapolis. But market watchers were divided over what the Dow milestone, or even what a potential new all-time high really means. To some, it's an important booster to hearts and minds, making investors feel optimistic and more willing to bet on the market. The Dow touching 14,000, it matters psychologically, said Peter Cardillo, Chief Market Economist at Rockwell Global Capital in New York. It attracts smaller investors, he said, who had been shying away from stocks until recently. Since April 2011, investors have pulled more cash out of U.S. stock mutual funds than they put in. The Dow ended Friday 149.21 points higher to 14,009.79. The S&P 500 rose 15.06 to 1,513.17, while the Nasdaq Composite Index was up 36.97 to 3,179.10. But is the United States economy really that much better? And as the collective worldwide equity rally soldiers on, folks across the board once again have suspended disbelief to conclude that all problems are solved, or at least contained. Whether it's Japan's deflation, which some people believe will be conquered by the money printing there, to the mess in Europe, to America's economic, financial, and monetary woes, everything is deemed to be on the mend. Thus, money is being thrown at stocks, and the year has certainly gotten off to quite the start. In short, a superficial analysis indicates we are in a bit of a sweet spot, so enthusiasm for the stock market continues to build. But along with higher equity prices has come another bout of collective amnesia. Meanwhile, the world's bond markets have not been clubbed yet, as 10-year Treasury bonds keep making higher highs and lower lows in interest rates, and last week traded at their highest level since last spring. The bond market is now lower than it was when the latest rounds of quantitative easing began, but it will still be some time before it truly disciplines the Federal Reserve by taking away the printing press, which will ultimately punish equities as well. However, currently most investors are able to look past rising rates, shrug their shoulders and say, hey, rates are still really low, and they're rising now because supposedly the economy is better. But is the economy really that much better, with the unemployment rate still high and millions of people still looking for work? It is difficult to tell in advance when the madness of crowds will exhaust itself. As we saw during the equity and housing bubbles, it is difficult to say when the crowd is going to realize that just because stocks are higher doesn't mean we might be headed for a train wreck in America. Eventually, the Fed might no longer be able to print its way past trouble, not to mention the fact that inflation could be headed higher. Might it be that the majority of investors are being head-faked, as the effects of money printing have helped markets and economies, but the consequences have yet to be felt again? In other words, could it be that more bubbles are building, going from one crisis to another? And this too is another sign of the end of times, as we know them, transition days, a time of extraordinary changes, happenings, and events, because it really is about what kind of world are we leaving to the future generations. And yes, that should be a very important question to ask. Joel chapter 2, blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and the earth, sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord comes, for it is near at hand. 2. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. A great people and a strong. There has not been ever the likes, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. Revelation chapter 18, verse 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. 3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the leaders of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich with the abundance of her delicacies and luxuries. 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. 5. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. 6. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double, according to her works. In the cup which she has filled, fill to her double. 7. How much she has glorified herself, and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she says in her heart, I stand as a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Again, it's time for prophecy to be fulfilled, and all these are more signs of the times.